And I also brought some, what are these called again? Paper clips. Some paper clips. The book that I am reading is called Discovering Jewish Music by Marsha Bryan Edelman. I borrowed this book from my library and I had to return it, and I couldn't make any notes in it or anything, so I kind of already read it. So I decided to buy my own and reread, make notes, and I'm going to be using it for a research project that I'm working on. I've had these for over 10 years, but they are different sizes and shapes. This one is a little butterfly, and then this one, I think it's a dog, so that's fun. And this one's a heart, and there's one that's a guitar, a music note. Oh. This one's a flower. This one's a treble clef. It kind of looks funky, but yeah. So here is the book. Discovering Jewish music. And I already took some notes, did some highlighting. I marked off a whole section right here. It's, this whole section is marked by this right here, because I just didn't feel like reading it, and I already read it and I know what it's about. It's all about choir. But this book is super important to Jewish music, Jewish identity, the Jewish people. Marsha Edelman has a reflection that's different than Avraham Edelson, who was the first person to write a comprehensible anthology for what Jewish music is. And her approach is more like, what is Jewish music? Rather, it's just like music for Jewish people instead of Jewish music, because it's virtually impossible to make something authentic. We'll get more into it as we read. Thank you for joining me here today, and I just want you to relax, 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 please, 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 please. Today we're talking about a very important chapter, and it's about Yiddish theater. I'm writing a research paper on a Yiddish theater production, so yes, I already read this part, but there are things that I want to make a note of and highlight because they will help me with my research. So, this is the first page. As dramatic as the history of the Jewish people has been, Jews have not been a theatrical people. Biblical writings, at times, be quite literary, yet even the most dramatic of them, the Book of Job, which with rich dialogue among its characters, fails to reach the level of true theater. The first real spectator events were products of Greco-Roman culture that the rabbis uniformly abhorred. Circuses were filled with buffoonery and sacrifices to pagan gods, while sporting events featured naked athletes glorifying the human body. Greek tragedies featured incestuous relationships among humans and their various deities. It is not surprising that the rabbis of the Talmud specifically forbade Jewish participation in such public displays. Furthermore, rabbinic condemnation of such fare found its way into contemporaneous midrashim. Midrashim is like rabbi commentary, ascribing similar attributes to biblical figures. One story concerns Joseph during his time in Egypt and depicts a certain Nile festival. During featured theatrical presentations to which the masses flocked, Joseph is described as having returned to the house to cast up his master's accounts rather than attend the performances. Apparently, women were particularly forbidden to attend shows of any kind. Another midrash illuminates the dialogue between Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth. Ruth is reminded that joining the Jewish people means a significant change in her lifestyle, since, as Naomi points out, it is not the custom of the daughters of Israel to frequent theaters and circuses. I'm going to highlight that right there because I think it's pretty important. If I ever wanted to write something about feminism or sexism in Judaism, also I just think it's pretty important. Also, it's very interesting that the Book of Ruth is like a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. The Maccabean War appears to have largely wiped out Hellenistic influence on the Jewish community in Palestine. During the following century, however, Herod reinstituted such forms of entertainment and built various amphitheaters in major cities throughout the country, including Jerusalem. These were clearly Gentile institutions, however, and not representative. They were not representative of Jewish culture. By the 2nd century CE, tragedy passed out of vogue to be replaced by crude comedies that sometimes ridiculed Jews and their customs. The rabbis' hostility to such developments led them to prohibit Jewish construction workers from even helping to build the stadiums and theaters where these productions were mounted. That seems reasonable. There were apparently some less pious members of the community who rejected the rabbi's stance. Some fragmentary evidence exists of tragedies based upon biblical themes written by one Ezekiel of Alexandria during the 1st century BCE, perhaps in an attempt to distract Jewish audiences from more often pagan productions. Josephus, a Roman Jewish historian, mentions a 1st century Jew known as Alatirus of Rome, who was reportedly among Caesar Nero's favorite performers. The sarcophagus of an actress named Faustina, found in Roman catacombs of the 1st or 2nd century, features Jewish symbols and the word shalom in Hebrew. More surprisingly, the 3rd century rabbinical scholar known as Resh Lakish is said to have earned his living as a circus strongman. Much later, Jewish actors were apparently popular in court pageants and other dramas staged in Renaissance Italy. Mantua became a center for such performances, and its Jewish community of 2,000 apparently provided and paid for various forms of entertainment. By 1525, the participation of Jews in various state performances was considered a given. However, despite such Jewish involvement in foreign productions and their presumptive presence in the audiences, theatrical performance mounted by Jews for Jews did not appear on the horizon until well into the Renaissance. Dramas based upon biblical apocryphal themes were written by Spanish exiles in Italy and Holland. Some isolated Jewish plays were also written in Portuguese. The first Hebrew play to be published was Isere Tikva, which means Prisoners of Hope, written by Joseph Pensa de la Vega in 1673. The Bible figured prominently in the romantic poetry of Moses Chaim Luzzatto, and his followers wrote his historical dramas on Marranos, as well as biblical themes through the end of the 18th century. I'm going to highlight the first Hebrew play that was published. The Purimspiel. The only dramatic works to enjoy widespread appeal and rabbinic approval were Purimspiel, beginning the unorthodox retelling of the story of Esther, in which a foolish king and his evil henchmen, bent on destroying the Jews, are outsmarted by a Jewish queen and her wise uncle. The biblical book is read in the synagogue at the evening and morning services on a joyous festival of Purim, but without the usual decorum expected during religious rituals. Tradition dictates that the name of the villain Haman be blotted out by making noises every time his name is mentioned. A practice that leads to a rather raucous atmosphere. A festive meal is served on the afternoon of Purim, at which time revelers are also encouraged to drink until they cannot tell the difference between the good Mordecai, Queen Esther's uncle, and the wicked Prime Minister Haman. This confusion is furthered by the additional custom of masquerading on Purim. The roots of the Purimspiel lie in public celebrations in honor of Purim noted as early as the 5th century. In a region near Antioch, the holiday was observed by rowdy gatherings where participants sang, told jokes, and hanged Haman in effigy before burning him in a bonfire. Suspecting that they were rude disguises for reenactment of the crucifixion, Emperor Thelodious II ordered these festivities stopped in 408, but the Jews apparently ignored the command rather than give up their beloved celebrations. By 415, rumors spread that in lieu of dummies, Christian children were being burned. Predictably, this led to a pogrom that wiped out much of the local population and their Purim festivities. So I'm going to highlight the region where the Purimspiel, this event took place. I'm also going to highlight that the Purimspiel was the only thing that rabbis approved of when it came to singing and performance. The only dramatic works to enjoy widespread appeal and rabbinic approval were Purim-spiels. And of course there were rumors, obviously, that Christian children were being burned. Love those rumors. In medieval Europe, the revelry of parading yeshiva students bore clear signs of influence by the local Christian community. Ancient Greek festivities at the same season had celebrated a goat-like divinity, and now headdresses featuring goat horns became associated with Purim, as well as with the Christian Shrovetide and Mardi Gras. When formal Purim plays began, apparently in the 16th century, they shared some of the characteristics of Christian mystery plays. Purim plays reached their fullest flowering in 17th and 18th century Germany, with special resemblance to German Shrovetide plays called Fastnachtspiel, just as Christian mummers, carolers, and Fastnachtspieler went through the streets to entertain. Purimspieler often burst unannounced into their neighbors' homes to make their presentations. This is so confusing. Okay, so it's saying that Purimspiels resemble a German Shrovetide play called Fastnachtspiel. I'm gonna bracket this because it seems pretty important. So a Purimspieler often bursts unannounced into the neighbors' home, blah, blah, blah. In small towns, 3 or 4 revelers might perform in the city's groups of up to 30, including musicians in their shows. Crowding into dining rooms of wealthy ghetto residents, the troops performed for pennies, brandy, and cakes. The oldest published Purimspiel text, printed in Frankfurt am Main, dated from 1708, and is indeed a retelling of the Purim story. While the Esther drama was an obvious favorite, Purimspiel also took their inspiration from other Bible stories. Dramatic episodes like the sacrifice of Isaac, the sale of Joseph, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Moses' confrontation with Pharaoh, and the encounter between David and Goliath were all sources of inspiration. Occasionally, secular plays took the place of biblical dramas. 1588 comedy called The Scholar and the Devil was apparently based on the Faust legend and vignettes featuring a gypsy wedding, where the gypsy and the bear remained popular throughout the 19th century. More often, however, such scenes were merely interludes in the telling of biblically based tales, blending of the sacred and secular that was common in European folk theater. So, okay, I'm going to highlight that. More often, however, such scenes were merely interludes in the telling of biblically based tales, blending of the sacred and secular that was common in European folk theater. These more elaborate shows would also feature musical interludes as well as slapstick fights, comic sketches, and acrobatic displays with no connection whatever to the principal story, but featuring some of the traveling clowns, mimes, and acrobats who entertained villagers in marketplaces throughout medieval Europe. Contemporaneous European plays made frequent use of stock characters. I love stock characters. I'm putting a star here. And I'm going to highlight. The stock characters would appear out of any necessary dramatic context in virtually every play, descended from the ancient Roman masks in Italian commedia dell'arte. Such roles as the phony wise man or the quack doctor dottore and the old man attempting to maintain his authority over a young man or wife, Patalone, a cowardly soldier masking his fear with false bravery, Capitano, and the servant who outwits his master, Harlequin, became fixtures in European comedy from the Renaissance through the 19th century. These characters, portrayed by troops touring across Germany and Poland, became favorites among Jewish people. So I'm going to start highlighting. These characters, portrayed by the troops touring across Germany and Poland, became favorites among Jewish audience and often appeared in the Purim-spiels. It was not uncommon to see the likes of Goliath depicted as a soldier capitano, while King Ahasuerus merged into Pantalone. Even the sainted Mordecai would sometimes transform into Prince Mondrino or Mondrish, the court fool. Now we're getting into wedding entertainers. And I don't want to read about that, but I think I'm going to move my bookmark. Uh-oh, you got it. Ripped off some of the paper, but I'm going to place it like that. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was okay background type things.